Hey everyone, welcome to the video on forms in Equiano's interesting narrative. Now, Equiano is a very savvy, shrewd user of existing genres. So in this video, we're going to be talking about a few genres that Equiano uses in this story of his life to very interesting and shrewd effect. So the first is the genre of the captivity narrative. These are all 18th century genres that were current at the time. The captivity narrative, as it was traditionally deployed, was usually a story about a white person who was on a journey traveling around the world, who was taken captive by a group of what they would refer to as savages. And then this white person wrote an account of how he was treated by the savages, what the savages were like. And again, I'm just using this word because that's the 18th century word, not the word that I would apply here. But this is really significant because in Equiano's version of this genre, the white people, who are normally the victims, the heroes of this narrative, are now the savage captors. And Equiano is the victim. Equiano, who might in other versions of this narrative be depicted as the captor, is now the victim. So that's one way he's using genre really creatively in this story. Another way he's using genre creatively is by deploying the travel or adventure narrative. Again, in the 18th century, this was very popular. It describes the adventures of a traveler, describing the wonders, strange sights, and risks that a traveler faces in new and unfamiliar environments and cultures. I find that most students are familiar with Gulliver's Travels. Maybe they read it in high school or they know about it through pop culture in some other ways. That's a parody of the travel narrative. Swift makes up this character of Gulliver, and he makes up all of the encounters that Gulliver has in that story, but it's mimicking the genre of like the true real life travel narrative. Well, it just so happens that Equiano travels a lot and has many adventures as he travels around what we would now call the United States, the colonies, and he writes about them in his narrative. So he's using that genre of the travel or adventure narrative as well to sort of make his book marketable or make people interested in the story that he has to tell. Another genre at work here is the spiritual autobiography. Just like that sounds, this usually tells the story of a person's journey to become a Christian. Now, Equiano does become a Christian, so that's a story that he tells in this narrative. But he also uses the shape of the spiritual autobiography to tell a story about his journey to freedom from slavery. So he's using this genre in two ways in this story, both to tell a story about his own faith, but also his journey to freedom from slavery. And then finally, he's also participating in the genre of the abolitionist tract, which, as you might imagine, illustrates the evil of the institution of slavery and argues for its abolishment. This is something that Equiano participates in quite directly, in fact. And so I'd encourage you to be looking for those moments in his narrative. So the reason I wanted to bring up these four forms to you is because Equiano's doing something that I don't know if we can say it's totally unprecedented, but it's very rare. He is a person of color. He is a formerly enslaved person who is publishing a narrative, a narrative about his own life. As we've seen from this class, that doesn't happen very often. We have not read an author of color in this class. So Equiano is very groundbreaking in this way. And to be more successful as he breaks ground, he's deploying these existing genres that people are already familiar with to give them a story that they're familiar with. Like it has a familiar shape. At the same time, he's twisting and reshaping these genres to deliver a different message about his own life and experiences. This is one of the things I find most fascinating and interesting about Equiano, is the way he deploys genre in interesting ways. And we're going to talk about this even more in the themes video, so you'll have a chance to think more about this in a little bit. But keep your eye out for these four genres as you read Equiano's narrative.